Okay, guys, my apologies for the late start, and I'm actually hoping you can hear me. I don't appear to have anything going right here at the moment, including the fact that I can't hear a dash thing. And I got a sneaking suspicion that you guys won't be able to hear me either, which is pretty poor, obviously, and something that currently is beyond my control, but I'm working on it as I speak to you. So if anything changes, obviously you'll be the second to know. Just bear with me, guys. I think I can see something happening now. So with any luck at all, you can not only see my screen, but you can also hear me. Let's just assume that's the case. I'm sure Ash will be joining us shortly, and I hope I can hear him. That would be good as well. I'm just going to monitor this on another PC, guys, just to make sure that it is actually working and I'm not talking for no reason. So just bear with me a tick. In the meantime, you can entertain yourselves with looking at the Forex Factory. Okay, it looks like we're okay. Rightio, let's do that anyway. Let's see what news is around about the place and if we need to dodge it or if we need to take advantage of it or exactly what's going on around the world this Monday, the 25th of February. Ruari, as a matter of fact. We've got not a lot happening today, apart from, of course, the Bank of England's governor, Mr. Mark Carney, having a little chat. What's he talking about today? He's talking, oh, he's doing a press conference. Okay, that could be interesting. We don't know the subject matter of that. That's due to take place in about 2 hours and pardon me, 21 minutes from now. So that might be an interesting look and may indeed move the markets in a particular direction. Wish we knew what it was. Hey, that'd be nice. That's about it for today in terms of high volume or high drama news. High impact is the word I was looking for, but it would escape me for a second. Likely to move the pound a bit, and I've got a bit of interest in what the pound's doing at the moment. I've got two trades on the pound, one going one way, one going the other, in terms of pound strength and weakness, but obviously both about different crosses, so there's not necessarily a full correlation there. What have we got during the week? We've got a bit of pound news tomorrow with inflation report hearings. Okay, what's that all about? Okay, another chat from Mark Carney and his members of the Monetary Policy Committee. So yeah, pound might be a little bit topsy turvy. What's new? Dollar tomorrow, consumer confidence. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Powell talks as well. So likely to be an interesting day on the dollar as well. Hang on 2 seconds, guys. I've just got to answer Ashley struggling to get in the room. Okay, so yes, we've got Jerome Powell talking tomorrow at 3 o'clock London time. CAD news on Wednesday. Powell talking again on Wednesday. This must be testimonies to the who Senate Banking Committee on the Tuesday. Is that part one of two? Who's he talking to on Wednesday? The House Financial Services Committee. Okay, so that's their monthly type thing that goes on. Again, interesting to see what he says. One would think that there'll be a continuation of the no more interest rates in the near term, no more interest rate rises in the near term. I think we all know about that. If there's some surprises come out of what he has to say, then maybe the market will move on it. Kiwi business confidence and Aussie private capital expenditure on Thursday, as well as advanced GDP and Powell talking again on Friday. Who to this time? Deliver a speech, recent economic developments and longer-term challenges. Okay, that'll be interesting as well. So it's a Jerome Powell week by the look of it, and lots of speeches. Don't necessarily like speeches. They're okay after them, but during them, yeah, lots of different things can happen. In particular, if questions are asked and answers are given that aren't terribly clear in one direction, you can see the market move. So I would probably be looking to not trade around those times on small time frames. That's pretty much it as far as the news is concerned. I guess if we look back, and when Ash comes in, we'll talk more about it. But we've got China trade talks with Mr. Donald Trump, who tweeted over the weekend at some stage that he was very happy with the way talks were going on all sorts of topics, including a range of things, not least of which currency manipulation. That's in there. Tariffs are in there, of course, and the outcome of that little tweet was that because he was so happy with the talks as they were progressing, he's prepared to wait a little longer before imposing the 25% tariff increases on China that were due to take place in, 4 days from now. So it looks like that is back on hold as I guess the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed on the trade negotiation, or the trade wars as we call them, USA and China. So that's on the back burner for a little bit more time. I did hear a March 12th date mentioned in there somewhere. I'm not sure if that relates to the trade war talks or whether it relates to Theresa May and the B word. Again, I'll leave that to Ash. That's his neck of the woods and certainly not mine, because I've switched off of that, I think about 6 months ago, because I don't see anything that's come out of it. And really, I don't see anything that you can pin your hat on where you can say, well, okay, this is great. This is going to be great for the pound. This is going to be great for the euro. It changes daily, and I think the market's telling us exactly that as we look at the market each and every week, which we shall now do from my point of view and see what exactly I'm looking at. Firstly, the two trades that I'm in. Pound yen. Took this on, last Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. It was triggered on Wednesday. So a trade that's Monday, Tuesday. That's Wednesday's candle was triggered on Thursday. Not looking that great. I was actually trading this bar here and looking at a pullback at the very least, and targeting this area down here. This was my first take profit area, this yellow line, and we didn't make it. We got taken into the trade, and we looked to be on our way, actually, but then something happened. We hit a level. I don't see the level, frankly. Maybe there, maybe that's it. And we've pulled back off it now, looking, completely indecisive, the market, frankly. And it's a bit of a toss-up now. I think it's a 50-50 shot as to which way this is going to go. So I'm a little bit uncomfortable, I would say, to be short at this point. That said, we did throw not very much money at this one, given that it was a just-in-case trade, I call it. It was just in case it went before a strategic level, which I had up here on, I think, the weekly chart. I won't go into that now. Maybe when we do a bit of analysis a little bit later, if we get time, that would be the case. But this really is now looking like a bullish break, but it's still at this resistance level, which is pretty much just before where I've got my stop. I like the fact that we got the new high and couldn't go through with the job, but it looks as though... Oh, okay. Guys, just bear with me a couple of seconds. Ash is struggling because he's got a wrong link. Hang on 2 secs and I will throw him a new one. And we'll go from there. Just give me a couple of seconds and I'll be straight back with Ash, hopefully. Sorry for the delay, guys. Be back with you as soon as possible. Hello, you in? I thought that was Ash, guys. Hang on, I'll just have to stop sharing the screen for tick and see if I can actually make this work for Ash. You in, Ash? I can hear noise, which suggests he is. Can you hear me, Ash?
You can hear me. Okay, I can't hear you. Actually, I've got nothing here. Okay, I'm just going to mute me for a little while, mate. I think it's my end.
Okay, guys, apologies for that. It looks like Ash is struggling with audio at the moment, so I'll just continue until he's able to hear. I can hear him. I guess you guys can too. But he's unable to hear us. He's working on that problem and will be with us as soon as he possibly can. Okay, so back to pound yen and the trade that I'm in. Look, there's absolutely nothing to do here from a management point of view. As I said, I'm in this very, very small stake. So if it hits the stop, it hits the stop. It's not the end of the world. Is there a chance for this to go back and get us into the profitable area? Well, yes, of course there is, because really not a lot's changed. Pretty much exactly at the level we were when this candle closed, which is the candle that I traded. So really nothing's changed from a political and economic trade / Brexit standpoint. I don't know that anything's changed either. Ash will probably fill us in on that if anything's happened over the weekend. But really, there's nothing to do here at all, unless you're really risk averse. Then take the trade off in a half of, I guess, your negative position. But I'm not going to do that because there's still chance that this will go exactly where I thought it might. After all, we are at a pretty toppy level if you go down to the smaller time frames. You can see that this double top's in place. That was pretty much one of the reasons I took the trade. We've got lower highs. This bar here, of course, was a bit of an upset on Friday when we looked like we were headed for profit. Just hang in there. There's no need to panic at this point. The other trade that I'm in has the pound going the opposite direction, of course, or the same direction that it's currently going, and that is long because I'm trading euro pound short. We got into this when, what can I see? My little arrow on my charts. Maybe it's on the 4-hour chart. No, I traded on the daily, I thought. Yeah, okay. Well, I got in here somewhere. I can tell you that. But I can't see the trade on my chart for some reason. Anyway, stop loss is still above last week's weekly pivot. The trade looks quite good. There's nothing to do here except hope we get this breakout to the downside again and continue on with putting money in the bank. We've only banked once on this. Our second banking level is here, but we can only win on this, so there's no drama to be had at all. So euro pound is still going okay. If you're not in this, what would you be looking to do? Well, I guess on the strength of a monthly pivot bounce, lower highs and lower lows, consolidation, false break of that consolidation area, and now we're back in it. I guess you could trade it top to bottom of the consolidation, probably using the weekly pivot as the top and the lows as the bottom. So I probably wouldn't mind doing that myself. That's kind of the way I trade. So if we get back into this area here, I'll probably look to enter short on a small time frame. I probably see this as the level that we're going to hang around in for a little bit, actually, between let's say 87 and 86.5. You know, it's not a big range by any stretch, but on a 30-day chart, 30-minute chart, that's probably where I'm at. The trade that I left you guys with on Thursday was Euro CAD if it broke here. Well, it did that, and it did it quite dramatically, and I did get into the trade here. It didn't quite hit where I expected that it might, but we did take profits. Our take profit level was around about here somewhere, as I recall. So we got into that for free, and that was about all it gave us. As soon as, well, not as soon as, but shortly after, and on the same 4-hour bar. Well, no, the 4-hour bar was okay. The next 2 4-hour bars weren't too friendly. And then, of course, we got our trailing stop hit and out for just a very small profit. With this one, look, I haven't really ruled this out, to be fair, in terms of hitting this level one more time. So I'll be watching through here very closely. I think a break back above the 2 pivots would be a very strong indicator that we are going back to here. So I'll be looking for that. There'll probably be a consolidation level in here somewhere similar to this. If that does occur, and again that breaks, I'll be looking to trade that just after it does, and again targeting these levels. So that's Euro CAD. A lot to do, of course, with what's happening with oil in terms of CAD, and you can see that we've trying to put in a top here, but this level here has still got me intrigued around about the 58 mark. And yeah, look, I see that getting there potentially in the next day or so. I don't see any reason why this would stop. So this is a pretty strong rally off the monthly pivot. Haven't hit the top of that channel, and the top of that channel is at a nice confluence area. So I see that as a likely target for oil in the next couple of days, and that should take the CAD with it. And if that's the case, and we see the euro continue to be, I won't say weak, I'll say susceptible, then I do see this as a possibility. So I'm watching EuroCAD pretty closely, and that will be on my focus levels for the next 24 or 48 hours. Going to Ash, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can, mate. Yes, yeah. Finally got in.
He's back in and able
Yeah.
to be heard. Frustrating that, and I was having a frustrating time myself. I don't know how many of these I've actually started, and I'm hoping that there's only one or two out there going at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I went around a slightly different route in the end, but yeah, it was this morning. My PC just decided it was going to do an update, and as that was going on, it was getting closer and closer to the time. It said don't switch it off, so I thought I better leave it. But by the time I got back in, it had changed all my settings, so I couldn't. I didn't have any apps that were opening, so I did another restart, and then the sound wasn't working, so I had to do a little troubleshoot on that. But we're here now. Yeah.
Well, okay,
yes.
we've got open coming. I don't trade the opening candle. Are you trading the opening candle this morning?
No, it's actually quite difficult to trade the FTSE all round at this particular stage. The
hasn't done much, has it?
No, and the message is very, very difficult. You know, the message is kind of changed. You know, I've got this. I think you've got my screen here. I've got this bearish stance on the FTSE, and in some respects, it still looks like it could break down at this point. We've got a little trend line above here, which is possibly going to be seen at some point. Is the level up there, which may be the point to try and go short. Failing that, it's got to break down this whole pattern. So I thought this may happen, or I wasn't 100%, but I thought this may happen where we just get caught into a range, and that's really what's going on. We're just caught in this range that doesn't seem to want to break out at this particular stage, and we're right in the middle of it. So it's either a short here or maybe even a long down here. The indicators are mixed, so the longer term indicators do suggest a short. The short term indicators at this point, just on price action alone, are probably suggesting that there might be some more upside here. If we get down to what could be potentially driving the market, which is this trade war, this potential trade war, that from certainly over the weekend, it seemed to be going fairly well. I'll have to have a little dig into it to see whether they did get a end for the agreement. But
the trade wars you're talking about?
Yes.
No, the Donald's come out and tweeted, it was either overnight or over the weekend, that he's a very happy chap. He, talks going beautifully for the US, etc., etc., etc. Usual diatribe that comes out of him. And he's so happy that he's happy to extend the March 1st deadline on the tariffs.
Okay.
And we're in a holding pattern at the moment, waiting on, I guess, the agreement to be drawn up, if you believe what he's saying. Yeah,
so I think given all that, I would be more likely to plump for some upside than downside. The market was driven by the trade wars, and because of that, I suppose I'll need to look for upside signals. And as yet, I don't really have them. Nothing really crystal clear. There probably is a little signal for some upside here. So my issue is that the market is just a little bit, it's not hugely, but it's a little bit overbought. And the main issue is that, yes, I think this is probably going to go higher. Is there enough room here to take a decent amount of profit? Not really. If it goes through the level, then things do change. But I need the longer term timeframes just to settle down a little bit. What this is kind of suggesting is the longer term timeframes are suggesting that we might remain in this pattern. The shorter term timeframes are suggesting there's some upside. So anybody interested in taking a trade here, then I would be going long with a stop probably under this particular area if you're using stops. And the thing is about this kind of area is that I would trade in a few different ways, and the way that I like to trade is without stops. But the only way you can really do that is if you get an extreme swing, or at least a swing area. The problem with this is that this isn't really, when we look at this on a daily chart, this isn't really a swing area. This is more of a top. So to go long here, I would be risking it popping all the way back down again, and then maybe even giving a slightly better price. So going long isn't really an option on the longer term timeframes. I've talked about this area here and this area here, not having have tested these areas. So I kind of want to see that before I go long. I want to see it just drift down here before I go to the upside. But it may not happen. Maybe it just continues to the upside without any challenge. And obviously, as I say, if that's the case, there's not a great deal I can do. I've just got to let this one just let it go. It's really about what's the catalyst to bring it down, and I don't have one. If the trade wars have gone supposedly well, as Donald Trump suggests, then that's unlikely to bring the market to the downside and give us a decent entry pop. And if the trade wars are cleared up, the technical suggests that this is a little bit high to go long. So I'm in no man's land myself. So I can't really do a lot here. Well, obviously I could scalp it and put some stops in place, but I'm not prepared to do that. I'm much more interested in waiting this out and seeing if I can get something that brings the market down. Maybe with the tariffs being extended, there could be a different event that brings the market to its knees for a little while, and then we can start looking for longs. But the shorts are just a bit more difficult now because we've got the that particular news event. The shorts have become that bit more difficult. So I don't know whether I can take this really. I've just got to let the market show me the way. And at this particular stage, the technicals don't match the fundamentals.
So last week you were pretty keen on the shorts, and didn't happen. Well,
yeah.
Nothing really has happened. There's a bit of a breakout, then there's a pullback, then there's a bit of a breakout the other way and a pullback, signifying, of course, I'm talking about a range and that then consolidation. That's pretty much the case. Why now high side, do you think? Just because of fundamentals?
Yes, because the fundamental reason that the market was pausing here is because they were waiting for news on the trade talk and the trade negotiation. And the fundamental reason that we went to the high side in the first place was because there was a chance that we would get a trade war breakthrough. So we don't have a breakthrough, but what we do have is a delay. So kicking the can down the road doesn't really help the market make any choices here. You know, if we know that the market likes certainty, then what we don't have right now is certainty. We just have things that are, you know, to kind of coin a phrase, that the can's been kicked down the road, and the can being kicked down the road isn't particularly good for the market. So I don't really
unless,
have.
Of course, the market believes what Donald is saying, and it's all upbeat. I tend to think that every time we have these little, I don't know, confrontations or meetings or conferences, he continues to tweet positively for the US, and the outcome is generally, well, I don't know that there's that many precedents, but I think Kim Jong-un is one of them, and he's due to see him again, of course. I don't think anything actually happened out of that meeting with Kim Jong-un. I think it was all in Donald's Twitter account and in his mind. So I don't know how much credence to put on his tweet on this occasion either. Maybe the delay is because of a reason entirely different, and he's given, I guess, a little bit of leniency or a little bit more room for the Chinese to come back and say, well, okay, yes, we do agree, or we don't agree. How do you know, really? How would
Well,
you know?
you're absolutely right. You know that's absolutely possible. The only thing with this is that, as I said last week, the Chinese had sent their chief negotiator, and they were locked in a room right the way through the weekend. So because of that, it would suggest that in fact, a report from Chinese official news agency, I was just reading, Jinhao also noted substantial progress on specific issues such as technology transfer, intellectual property protection, and agriculture. So they do have certain areas that they are making breakthroughs
Okay, he
on.
didn't mention
Uh,
currency. Interesting.
no,
Donald did.
no, he didn't. Right, yeah. Well, the currency issue seems to be okay, from what I read, and it wasn't just from the the tweet. I was reading that actually beforehand. Chinese stealing. This is the thing. Mr. Trump initiated the trade war over complaints of unfair Chinese trading practices, which included accusing China of stealing intellectual property. And as that's one that's been listed, I suspect as a breakthrough area. I suspect that probably will calm things down a little bit. U.S. imposed tariffs. So yeah, we've had some retaliation, and then that's pretty much all there is. But there does seem to be much more positivity than negativity. So
Yeah, true.
that would suggest to me that the upside is much more likely here than downside, even if that upside just results in getting right back to the top of this particular pattern again. That to me would be much more likely right now than moving down here. So as I say, anybody wanting to kind of like trade that back to the upside, there is 30 or so pips in it, but which isn't a bad. That's not a bad reward for a trade in the morning. But the only problem is, I would only really want to take that if I had the view that it had a chance to go much further. And it's not that I don't read that it possibly could have a chance to go much further. I'm not saying that the market does some odd things sometimes, and just a little bit of confidence, within the market can drive it forward without question sometimes. But the issue is that the longer term time frames, as I said, that the daily specifically has come a long way. And what I like to see is that if we do get some sort of holding pattern like we have here, I want to see indicators unwind. And the indicators haven't unwound substantially enough, in my view, to suggest that we've got a really good boost to the upside. So that's the reason that I'm not backing a trade here. It's not because it's too high to trade. I mean, as I say, when things kind of go in a specific direction, this is a really good example. It would be perceived that this may be too low to trade. But you see, when it comes down here, it needs this kind of bounce area for the indicators to unwind back up again, and then you've got some then you've got some room for momentum to start carrying down. And I haven't really seen that here. The momentum hasn't really kind of given us enough downside to create a kind of bounce area. All we've got right now is a rubber band which is fairly loose. It's not tightened enough to give us a catapult. So there's not enough price action here. So I suspect one of two things will happen, and that is that we remain in this range, and the range lasts longer than I'd like, and eventually we try and pick it up at the low end of the range, or we actually do break down just a little bit, and the indicators unwind that way, and then we do have a catapult to go to the upside that way instead. But you can tell by the early moves in the market that at this particular stage, it's only 10 minutes in, but at this particular stage, the market's still a little bit unsure. What am I going to do right now? And it may well be seeing what I'm seeing, which is an area of price action, which is right in the midpoint, which is the worst possible place to try and trade it. Really.
Yeah, I don't think you're Robinson Crusoe in terms of the charts. Mine are pretty much the same. They're dead set between the support and resistance areas that I like to trade. And
Yeah.
that does make it tough. no question.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's impossible, but there are a couple of things that may be on offer. But right now, I'm pretty much in this. In fact, I had a good look at this market an hour and a half before the show, and that's what I like to do on a Monday, is to get an overview of what I'd like to do for the week. And you generally come out with 2 or 3 currency pairs that you think may be the ones that you'll concentrate on. Got nothing.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing with this is trade short within this range, and it was somewhere around about the 62 area. Where was it? It's about here. I took a trade, and as it came down and started to kind of give us this different price action, I think I got out a little bit earlier, but I got out on a 15-minute chart. I think I made around about 25 pips or something like that. It was round here, so I took it off. So I got a tiny bit out of this. But let me show you. The other 2 opportunities were, yes, you could have gone long, but I wasn't at this particular stage thinking long. But this was my other downside opportunity. And, you know, I challenge anybody to get into that. This one bar was the one time I was looking. And the reason I was looking there, I'm going to just change the chart back again. The reason I was looking here was because of the pivot. But what I wanted was just price to rest here a little bit. It was vicious. It was up and down. So no opportunity to get in for some downside there. It came back up again. I was looking here. I was looking for price to come a little bit higher because I was looking again at this level up here. Didn't get up there, and again just floated right back to the downside. So I had no opportunity there. So really, I've had 2 potential moves that were profitable, would have been profitable from my particular stance of looking for downside, that gave me little or no opportunity to get in. I had no time to think here, really. There was a chance there, as I say, but the chance was swept straight away from me because price was just refused almost instantly. And I'll show you this on on a shorter term time frame as well. But even this bar here didn't really touch it. It was straight up, touched, and straight down. This is a 15-minute, so there was no time to think. No. About this whatsoever, and by the time it had kind of come and closed down here, I was no longer interested. I wanted to see it curve more, and then come back down again. This again, 15-minute chart, straight back down again. Just a refusal in an area that I didn't really give it too much hope. There was an indicator actually was shaping up here, but the price wasn't, so I couldn't justify that. So it's been a difficult range, but I think Monday, I've got no qualms about not trading on a Monday, because Monday can be a brilliant day. But I think if any day is going to be tricky, it's going to be a Monday. If any day is going to be good, it's usually going to be a Thursday. This was Thursday's price action. Yeah, that was Thursday's price action. So that there was a chance on Thursday, but I watched this one pretty much most of the day, and just only had an indicator set up and not a price action set up, so I couldn't take that. But for today, I'm just wondering, is there going to be a clear opportunity? We've got Monday. We've still got maybe a hangover from the weekend. Maybe people are sifting through the data, just getting back to their desks now and reading through some of the announcements made by the Trump and Xi Jinping meeting, and also Brexit as well. There's been further developments on that over the weekend. So maybe, yeah. I mean, do you want to get to Brexit as well and cover that while we're here?
Well, yeah, don't have any trade, so we might as well brush it out from under the carpet and then straight back under again. Okay,
so yeah, lots going on actually. So this is the pound dollar, and I still love your trade of the euro pound as well. So lots going on here, and it was really last Monday we had an announcement. There was breaking news that 3 Labour MPs had defected from their party and left their party, and at the time it didn't seem to be that substantial. But there's been a waterfall effect off the back of that. So 3 have now become 12, 11 actually, I think, where they've been joined by, actually it was more than that, wasn't it? How many Labour MPs were there? I think there might have been 5. Can't remember the exact number, but it's somewhere around there. But they were joined by, and they've been joined since then by another Labour MP. They've been joined by 3 Conservative MPs. So 3 has now become 11 or 12. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they're in double figures. So that number is starting to grow, and they are fairly established MPs. These aren't just a kind of breakaway group of MPs that don't have any substance in Parliament whatsoever, or any backing in Parliament. They're fairly well supported MPs, yep. And that has put pressure on both parties. Specifically, actually, the Labour Party that aren't in power more than the Tories, and the reason it's put pressure on them is some of the reasons that that some of these defectors defected was because they are citing the lack of commitment on this second referendum, and also anti-Semitism. So, which is, yes, it's apparently rife in the Labour Party. There's really bad anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. Okay. So, and one of the Labour MPs was a Jewish MP who just couldn't handle it anymore. And she's actually got quite a lot of support, even from Labour MPs that remained, because she says that her position was becoming fairly untenable, and the leadership just hasn't dealt with it. Now, over the weekend, we had the deputy leader of the Labour Party, and he made a pretty strong plea, I think, to the Labour leadership that they need to change their stance. And one of the things he said, and we're going to get back to Brexit, one of the things he said was that at the party conference, the 3 things that Labour wanted to see was, number 1, Theresa May negotiate closer to their particular negotiating position, and see their red lines. She hasn't done that. The next thing was to ask for a general election so they could negotiate with their red lines. She hasn't done that. The third thing that would happen if neither the first 2 did was a people's vote. And Tom Watson actually stated we are moving more towards the people's vote. So it's from almost the jaws of defeat that there would be a second referendum, that is starting just to gain a little bit of traction. Now, also since the weekend, we had one Labour MP who is a Remainer, and if anybody was going to maybe join some of these defectors, it probably would be him, and Brian Hove. But he has said that he's not willing to leave the Labour Party. But what he does want is for the Labour Party and Parliament to vote through Theresa May's deal, so ratify it in Parliament, with the stipulation that if they agree to vote it through, then the people would get a chance to vote to say whether they want Theresa May's deal. So they would eventually put the seal on it. Yep. Now, that's also gaining some traction. So it seems to me that one way or the other, we are moving further and further towards this potential people's vote. Now, that doesn't really help when it comes down to trading the pound. What it may do is strengthen the pound, but it'll be strengthened on the back of feeling and emotion rather than anything substantive. Because what we do know is that a people's vote could still go the other way. And it would probably more likely come down to polling. If we see the pound start to strengthen, it would suggest that the polls are talking about remaining in the EU. If it weakens, then maybe it would go the other way. There is a caveat to that, and the caveat is if the 2 things on the ballot paper is remaining in the EU or going out of the EU with Theresa May's deal, that is going to be positive for the pound, because Theresa May's deal is still a positive deal if we consider that deal or going on WTO rules instead. So there's a few things that if that last one was accepted, I think we're probably going to see some fairly decent strength in the pound. If on the ballot paper, however, that they add a third option, which is just to crash out on WTO, then maybe that starts to change things a little bit.
Okay, so let's go with any one of those scenarios. Doesn't really matter.
There is
For the
one
question.
other scenario is that we delay the Brexit process because there are
Uh-huh.
other MPs within Theresa May's Parliament saying no deal is not acceptable, and if a no deal was there, she would probably see more defections. So there is a one other one. You know, we don't know whether that's the three things that could happen from here, in my opinion, are we get Theresa May continuing to go towards the March 29 deal. Which means that on March the 12th is when we're going to get the meaningful vote on that. If on March the 12th she's voted down, is WTO. The second one is that she accepts that it goes through Parliament and it goes back to the people. And the third one is that we kick it down the road and we delay Article 50.
Okay, so if it did go to the third option, which is accept her deal, then take it back to the people.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen before March 29th. One wouldn't think there's no time. So does that then trigger the fourth option as well?
What's the fourth option?
Which is delay Article 50. Or do they?
What if she says no? If she says no, that it's not going back to the people. You mean?
No, if they do vote her deal through and then say it has to be ratified by the people.
Yeah, then it will be delayed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and are you on board with that?
Well, this is the interesting thing. We don't know what the EU is on board with just yet because all of this is just kind of being discussed amongst the British MPs. So we're not sure what they're on board with, except for the fact that she was there all weekend in Sharm el-Sheikh, which I could think of worse places to be to go and negotiate something. She was over in Sharm el-Sheikh trying to negotiate with the EU to get a not extension, a clause on the backstop which would say that the UK could leave the EU and not be confined to have this backstop. So she's trying to get the backstop removal legally binding at some point in the future. And if she gets that, then it might be that her deal gets through Parliament without having to go back to the people. So that, you know, her deal could still fly. We don't know, but her deal could still fly potentially.
Okay, well, we still pray that it ends. That's the only thing that's on my mind. Get it done. Just get it over.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. We are still hoping that might happen.
All right. I might take a look at a couple more currencies. We've got a few minutes before the bottom of the hour, so I'll just see if there's anything at all on offer in this session. There may be. Looks like the pound is trying its little heart out to put in new highs. And let me go to the daily chart here. The new highs are only recent highs, though. But this is an interesting one for me. If it does break here, that's a pretty bullish sign, given that we've gone into these tweezer tops with a very bullish outlook, and it now looks as though the only bearish sign here at the moment, which is those two tweezer tops on the daily chart, even three nearly, but that would be a pretty bullish sign. But trading it to here would be my only real interest. And 110 odd pips if I could find an entry, but there's no entry here on that candle, that's for sure. So I'd want a little bit of a pullback. So we'd be talking, you know, probably back to a pivot of some kind, or certainly a level. Let's see if that's on offer. Gee, it's a mess. It really is a mess. It's very, very difficult to be confident in any way, shape, or form. Again, you know, back to your earlier statement, Ash, on the 30-minute chart, there's probably a range in here that I can have a look at, and I will. But on this chart, you know, where are we? We're, again, really in no man's land, and it's very, very tough to pick a direction. It will probably be a day of, yes, we're going to break through, or no, we're not. If we're not, that suits me better, to be fair, because I'd rather see some sort of trade back into this area down to the daily pivot at least, and the 30-minute chart's where I'll go to have a look at that. And what do I see? I see a false break potential already. Now, am I willing to trade that is the question. It's a one-to-oneer, and the low of the day is within my scope. So I'm probably okay to trade that. We will place a small short here on cable. Don't even need to wait for the candle to close because the formation that I want is already there. The risky part here, of course, is I'm now going to put my stop in a place that's really vulnerable because we've already been through it. So that's the big query here. The level is good though, and if we do get a rejection here, then I think we're on our way to the daily pivot. So that's what I'll be looking for. It is reasonably risky because of the situation I just described. Our stop has already been taken out, so that's vulnerable. But we'll give it a shot. Let's go. All right, look, because it's such a risky trade, I will only go with a quarter of a lot here. I'm not going to put anything substantial into the market here at the moment because I don't like the market particularly. It's not giving me buzzy feelings or fuzzy feelings. It's going to be a sell stop. The level for entry will be 130.58. So 1.3058. We'll put our stops, as I said. I might get clear of here. That's probably a little bit more prudent than no, top of that bar. Okay, yeah, that'll do. Maybe it's best here. We'll make it 1.3095. That's bringing my risk to reward pretty poor here. Okay, we'll do a bit better than that. I'll change the stop. The stop's going to be at 1.3086. Okay, that's all we need to do for now. We'll just put that in the market. Okay, so entry is going to be there. What was the level I said?
I heard 1.3086.
That was the stop.
Oh. Glad to be of assistance.
We don't want to see that. Low 1.3058. I think I said might have been 57. I'll check on it. We'll put it at 58 for now. Okay, so there's our entry level. Our stop level you can see, and I will take profit here at probably that level. So 1.3045. I'll take profit, which is there-ish. Bang on there. So we'll take profit there. We'll try and get through the daily pivot and exit at the weekly pivot. But we'll have a look and see what price is doing at the daily pivot. If it looks like reversing, then we might just take it off. We will see. So that is pound US dollar short. Don't think I'm bearish the pound against the dollar at all. That's not the case. What I am trying to do is take a little piece out of this market as we get back in towards this range. And like I said before, this is now looking very much like a range to me. Picking it is probably not that easy on a 4-hour chart, the actual range. Let me try the 30-minute chart and see if I've got it. It's probably a lot easier here. Equal highs, equal lows. Let's go with Let's go with that as our high. The lows are in there somewhere. So we've been up here a while in terms of 30-minute chart. There may be a better entry to this one, guys. If I can get a lower high in this vicinity, I'll look to move my entry from there to here, or maybe place a second trade. We'll see. But there may well be a better entry than the one I've got already. So I'll be looking for that. And really what I am trading is top of the range to the bottom of the range. That's pretty much it. And when I get a signal, that's what I do. So if I get this lower high, I will indeed look to change that entry position. Let's have a look at its kissing cousin. The euro is doing very similar things, to be fair, and hasn't quite given me a setup, though. I do like this bar. That's given me a nice indicator that the top of this range is as far as it wants to go at the moment. And again, we've got a nice double target sitting down here. It's a very similar chart, to be fair. It's almost the same. But with this one, I haven't got a clear signal that if price does come to a level, it will continue in that direction. What I'll be looking for, again, is this lower high or something similar to the pound setup that I've already got. If it does set up the same as the pound, then I'll probably look not to trade it or to aggregate the risk on those, because primarily against the dollar, they're basically going to be the same trade, one would think.
Interesting, isn't it, the euro? I've got a friend who's been long the euro for about maybe the whole month. They've been long the euro, and they've been waiting for this particular area to come back and go back through again, just so they can probably get out of their trade. But it is getting there. We do have a higher low now on that daily chart, which I find quite interesting. We just quickly show you where he got in, and
sure.
This is the area that he was looking at on the euro, which is going to be on a daily chart here. He stacked. He stacked a little bit before this, I think. I'm not sure whether he got in a bit. I'm pretty sure that was the last trade he's entered. He might have even entered at this area as well. But he's had to sweat it out because it's come all the way down here. I don't know if he's entered again on these ways, or whether he's hedged it or not. But this now is a higher low. That's what I find quite interesting. I know we've got some really weak bars here, but it's been unable to break down, and that higher low may suggest that the euro's got some life here now. And I do actually have a few short-term signals which suggest that the euro might be not a bad area to go long as well. So you were looking for at this stage. You're saying that this area has got a bit of a battle to get through, which I completely agree with, and it would suggest to me that, if we do get through this point on the short-term timeframes here, substantially with a back test, then I think we probably then do have some fairly substantial upside in the euro. Would you agree with that that particular synopsis?
Yeah. Look, if I look at the bigger picture here, and you know, this little 30-minute range I've got here is only a very small picture in time, or a small print. If I go out to the daily chart, you can see that my range on the daily chart is quite the reverse. We're at the bottom of that range, and we've come back into it. So that's why I've traded the euro long myself, here and here and here. You know, we've traded it 3 times in the last 3 weeks. All long. I haven't traded this short at all, and we've managed to make money each time. So, you know, I'm certainly on board with that. I'm not against it at all. But at this very point in time, whilst I'm in this very tight range, then I'll trade the range, and you know, that's just the way I trade. I'm trading top to bottom all the time. As soon as this breaks out, then happy days. But the best place for me to trade this breaking out from is not from here; it's from here. That's where I'll be looking for my long.
I completely agree. That would be a great spot, wouldn't it? I mean, if we're confident that this is going higher, then really what we want to see is just a better price, and that's going to be at the lows.
Yeah, absolutely. Same all the time. But
Yeah,
you know, you've got to keep your eye on the bigger time frame as well, because if you do get a substantial higher low here, regardless of where it happens, you've probably got to trade that. So that will probably coincide, frankly. And I know you say we've got a higher low here. You know, in my books, we really don't. But that's, you know, we talk about swings quite differently. To me, this is not yet a swing. I'd much prefer to see this, and the level is tricky, I've got to say, to find that swing. Maybe it's, you know, maybe it's down here somewhere, maybe around about the 113. Why not? You know, 113's been a bit of a bugbear for this cross in the last month or so, or few months actually. It hasn't been able to get back through it, as you can see. This is 113 here, pretty much the bottom of this level. So it hasn't been able to break through it and sustain a break through it. And here we are again, back above it. So retest of it is really where I'd like to see that higher low. And that would definitely get me long. But on the 30-minute charts, no, I'm looking to come. I'm looking for that trade action. I'm looking for that trade back to there,
yeah,
so I can get long in the bigger scheme of things. So it's very much a case of short to get long at the moment.
yeah, yeah.
So that's the euro. Another one I want to have a look at is dollar yen, and again, this is so tricky. I had a strong opinion about this probably a week or so ago. When were we? Back here somewhere, when we hit the top of this range. Well, I call this a range, by the way, guys. Anything that's got tops and bottoms to it, I call a range. Doesn't matter whether it's going sideways, up or down, or whatever. So this channel here to me is a range, and I look for the same thing. I'm looking to trade this top to bottom, bottom to top, as the opportunity arises. So when I saw this bar here, the very first thing I was looking for was a lower high, and I really haven't got one. I thought we were in the makings of one on the 4-hour chart, but alas, nothing clear. That looked like it was going to be a swing, but it didn't give me the right indicators in terms of candles. So really, we've just gone into a range here. So it's going to be the same. I then define a range on the 30-minute chart, which is in here somewhere. We'll put it in. Why not?
Yeah, yeah.
So
we're short, looking a bit at short euro. I think, you know, did you check Forex Factory?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see much. Did you find much in there that would
A
suggest
lot of speeches,
yeah,
a lot of testimonies that could be interesting, but no, not a whole lot of news that really should be rocketing the market in a direction I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, that's the same here. Awful, isn't it? I just wonder.
Actually, there's just a waiting or a holding pattern, and you know, the only things I really want to trade are stuff coming off levels, and
Yeah,
you know, not really seeing that except on the pound at the moment. I can see potential for it, but I don't really see it at the moment.
no, I completely
You still
agree,
like
mate.
Euro pound trade, eh?
I beg your pardon?
I say you still like this Euro pound trade, eh?
I do. I really do like the euro pound trade. Let me just have another quick look at it. But I still see that, and it's really because of the way that that things, you know, appear to be shaping up in negotiations right now. But when I consider this euro pound trade, while we are not at the bottom here of this this particular bar, I suppose, I still think this is quite attractive, and I'm wondering as well. I haven't really completely looked at this, but I just want to see if there's a channel here. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe there's a channel there too.
The thing that concerns me about it, when I say concerns, I'm glad I'm in it, but I just don't think I've got stops wide enough because of the potential for volatility.
Yeah.
And not that I want to put my stops wider. I know I'm not at any risk in this trade, and so I can maybe afford to do that. But where is wide enough is the question. You know,
That's a really good question. Yeah.
is the last swing wide enough? And I think the answer to that is no. So how far do you go?
Well, I mean, I've only got two potential areas that that I would want to put a stop on this, and the first one would be here up. I'm not sure where your stop is, so this will be
at 87, 84.
87, 84. Yeah, about there. 87, 84. So it's about that area there. If you see, my personal preference would be two areas, which would be above this high, around about 88.40 ish.
That's the one I just mentioned, the last swing.
Yeah,
I don't think
and this particular trend line. So I suppose that would be. Yeah, I think this particular high would probably be my area right now. I'd probably at some point start tracking this trend line down, but it wouldn't be. I don't think I'd be in your area until the start of March. But I don't think it's unlikely for you to get hit. I mean, it's just why would it all of a sudden pop forward? And Draghi's already kind of been out to speak. We got Mark Carney out, I think, later today, so I guess there's a possibility that he could drive it forward, but it's got a lot of work to do to even hit where your stop is. Now,
why did it drive forward off the last low? Well, I don't know. Can't answer that question because it hasn't happened yet.
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, I suppose when it comes down to it, you may not see the value in keeping stops that wide when you've taken profit in a specific area to make the trade safe. But yeah, it'd be swings for me. I think what I'd now want to see after I've seen this, I'd want to see this pop up, probably test this line and go down, just so I've got a reason to kind of like then start using this line along with a swing. But at this stage, in this particular area, this line hasn't been touched and refused. So I don't know whether it is that line. So that would be as low as I'd want to go, I think, at that particular point. But I completely I understand why you'd want your stops a bit more shallow, because it could pop up there and just keep going, which would be hideous, especially with, as you say, like potentially higher volatility.
Yeah, look, I think if it goes through my stop, there'll be another opportunity to get short, frankly.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's the other way to play it, isn't it? If it goes through your stop, then you're looking for a slightly better price. So what's the point in waiting for that whole profit to be taken away from you before it swings back to the downside again? So yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that. I think they're nice and wide though, aren't they? But then in saying that, I suppose the other thing is that if you're going to have them tighter, why wouldn't you get even tighter and get above this particular line here?
Yeah, there's an argument for that. Definitely an argument for that.
Yeah,
I haven't really considered my position since Thursday on
right.
this stop wise. So
Yeah,
I'll see what the day brings. If we get new lows here, then that's probably a good option. We'll see.
yeah. Okay, so that's the euro pound covered. FTSE 100 is actually easing back to the downside. So the move to the upside has just been just tempered somewhat. I mean, as I say, I've got no real kind of directional bias on this, because I don't have a long-term bias, and that's the thing. I'm only really interested in which way it's going to go on the short term, because of my long-term bias, and I'm just a little bit flat when it comes down to long-term bias. Longer-term indicators, just to reiterate, are looking for downside, but the fundamental reason that would start to drag to the downside just seems to have dissipated somewhat with a can kicking exercise. So I don't have too much confidence right now there's a trade on, and you know, given the lack of data and news this week, mate, I'm starting to be a bit concerned and question.
It feels like
Yeah,
we're in the eye of the cyclone, you reckon?
yeah, I'm just questioning whether there's going to be a trade on this week, which
Well,
would be awful.
it's not the end of the world, you know.
No, it's not the end of the world. You're absolutely right. I wanted to kind of bump my profit line up a little bit. I mean, obviously, so you know, it's not that I haven't got a profitable month if it closed today, but it's just not really as much as I really wanted to get out of the market, really.
You can't go out and order the Lamborghini. Bugger.
No, at the minute I've got a penny farthing on order. but,
Actually, there was
but
they had a penny farthing display. I was doing bamboo deliveries over the weekend, and one of the towns I was in had a festival on, and they had penny farthings. So quite timely that you should mention them.
oh, were they for sale?
No. They were just
Oh,
dudes in English, or looked like English gentry.
yeah.
I won't say costumes, I'll say clothing on top of them, and
Oh, very
I
cool.
don't know why. I really don't know why.
Well, the penny farthing would be the sort of thing that I would see down here as a fad. You know, people would go and start buying penny farthings as a potential mode of transport, like a new mode of transport. They would start doing that in an area like Brighton. It's that
Wankers,
kind
yeah.
of thing.
So
But
you
you know,
talking about?
everybody would just accept it. Everybody would like, all right, okay, cool, penny farthings now. I mean, you know, anything that is perceived hip will happen in Brighton probably first, and then probably die down here as well, before it managed to touch the rest of the country. But yeah, but Brighton and Shoreditch, I think, are the sort of like two areas that you're likely to see that kind of thing.
That's like, didn't we have a lovely time the day we went to Bangor? Is Bangor near there?
Bangor's in Wales.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, okay.
Which is also I think is a seaside town anyway. But yeah, Wales is a completely different kettle of fish.
Oh, isn't it? Oh, no, I've got it. Actually, I've got a Welsh mate.
Oh, well, do you
Yeah.
know what this is the thing, mate? I'm half
Go on.
Welsh.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm not actually English at all. And this is the thing, you see, when it comes down to sports, I've got a little bit of a flipped allegiance because I support Wales in the rugby, which I was thrilled to see us beat the English the other day. But when it comes to football, I support the English football team. And I was trying to work out why I've got this connection, you know, why I've got this draw, because it's not an adult decision. This has been going on since I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reason was because when I used to watch rugby as a kid, it was, you know, Wales were a decent team. They've been a decent team, you know, for time, as far as I'm aware. But they were a decent team when I was a kid. So it meant that they got TV coverage. They got a lot of footage when I was younger. So when I sat down with my mum, who wasn't Welsh, incidentally, she was from the Caribbean. But when I used to sit down with my mum and she'd, like, you know, be cheering on Wales, she'd be going mad for Wales, I kind of got caught up in that, so I supported the Welsh rugby team, and I didn't really get that exposed to the English rugby team. But when it comes down to football, the Welsh football team was always atrocious. So the airtime that they enjoyed was so limited. The team that was always on TV because of the World Cup success at the time were the English team. So that's where, again, my mum would support the English team, and I got kind of drawn into that. So I support Wales in rugby and England in football subsequently.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird, but yeah, I get it. So you can actually pronounce the railway station, right?
Can't pronounce one word in Welsh. You see, I was brought up in Cardiff, and Cardiff wasn't really an area that embraced. It was much more kind of
No, they
England
certainly
centric.
embrace rugby. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, they do. And you know, interestingly, I'm saying about, you know, really kind of like, because I don't know if you've ever got this, but if you sit down with somebody who enjoys sport, then all of a sudden sport becomes brilliant. Even if you don't like that sport, you know, I've never liked cricket, but when I used to go to the Caribbean and sit down with my Caribbean cousins, my Vincentian cousins, and they'd be shouting at the screen for the West Indies in cricket, I was drawn into it, and all of a sudden I really liked cricket. You know, when I was out there, I don't anymore. But if I watch it with a fan, it changes everything. And my mum was, you know, she was a kind of quite a quaint Caribbean woman, and this is the interesting thing. She's the one who's kind of who encouraged me to like watching rugby and watching Wales subsequently, because they were the team on the TV a lot, and like watching football and subsequently like watching England. But she's neither Welsh nor English.
Doesn't matter.
No.
You've got the passion, mate. That's all that counts.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know why she found England so, you know, so good to watch. You know, why she was so drawn in by them, but she was, and you know, she loved rugby for whatever reason as well. But my dad, who was Welsh, didn't really touch sport. You know, he didn't really like it. So
interesting.
yeah, it's a bit of a strange and odd reasoning really for where I get drawn into it. And it's no different to my, you know, I support Tottenham. And I live nowhere near Tottenham, but it was a young friend when I was a kid told me when I was getting into football, you know, Tottenham are playing tonight, support Tottenham, and it was a cup final. So ever since then, I was a Tottenham fan. So I don't know where this fan thing comes in, because when it comes down to American football, I'm an adult, and I was an adult when I got into it, and I had nobody guiding me on which team to support. So every year I end up changing teams.
Who's in the Super Bowl final? You'll do.
Yeah. No, do you know what it comes down to for me? It's like whoever I find the most exciting. You know, if they play the way that I like to watch, I support. I want them to win it that year.
Yes.
So this year it was Kansas for me, and Kansas didn't get through. So yeah. But you know, it's all about that for me. It's not about who's going to win. It's all about who's the most entertaining. And I know, you know, for many years it was the Colts, because they had Peyton Manning, and before that was the Bears, because they had this big fat dude called William Perry that they called the refrigerator, and he used to just flatten people.
That takes me back to junior football, where you had. I wasn't a terribly big guy. I think I used to play halfback in those days, rugby league. And they had these giant prop forwards playing on the other side, you know, the same age, but and then they changed it to weight division because of that reason, because you're playing little guys who are just getting steamrolled by these giants who were, you know, twice their size. That wasn't fun. But I did say it'd be less fun these days.
You know, this guy, the great thing about this guy, William Perry, was he was a defensive player, but because he was so big, he was an offensive protector. I think he used to protect the quarterback, but because he was so big, every now and again they'd make him a running back, because if they just had a few yards to get, they knew that the other team just couldn't get their arms around his legs to bring him down. So, you know, it was brilliant the way they used to use him. But he's a very comical feature. He's got no teeth left whatsoever now. I think he looks like he's been eating refrigerators rather than just being called it. Like Monge.
All right, we've got 5 minutes to go. I'm going to just do a couple of things here. It's going to be major currency based, and it's going to be against the dollar. We've already got one happening. Again, we've got similar paths here. The euro is doing very, very similar things to what I wanted it to do. And if we now get a bull bar that comes and probably retest this level would be best. So if we got a retest, maybe an engulfing bar, something like that would be good. Anything less than that would be okay, but I'd much prefer to have something that gets right into this candle. So, you know, maybe close here or at least test the backside of the trend line. Then I would look to add a position short underneath there, providing the candle's not too big, of course. I don't want to be trading massive size candle here, short to the daily pivot. There's got to be some reward available for me. This one looks to be getting a little bit big as I speak. Don't want that, because then I'd have a big response bar. If it stays where it is, it's okay. Pound. No change here. Again, if we get that lower high, I'll probably change my entry from here to here, but nothing else to do at the moment. The one thing we haven't spoken about in terms of majors that I do like to trade is the Aussie. And yeah, that's come to a point. Let me just go a little bit wider. That kind of shows you where we're at. Middle of the range, absolutely middle of the range, as Ash said from the start today. It's a dreadful place to start trading or to find entries in the middle of a range. That said, we're kind of at a resistance level. Well, we are at a horizontal resistance level, no question. And potentially this level is also a confluence area, but we're actually not there. We're here, so we haven't reached the confluence area. So it's not, you can't take it into consideration, is what I'm saying. We've got a similar scenario here where we've hit the resistance, come back off it, and in the meantime broken a trend line back underneath it and tested that trend line. But not only the trend line, the monthly pivot and the weekly pivot, which is really interesting. Now, I hadn't noticed this earlier, but it's really giving me a potential short. That's the concern. That is the concern. Look, it's Monday. There's not a lot of news happening. I don't know that we're going to have enough force to get through these levels again and then take out this low. And that concerns me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till tomorrow on this and see what price gives me. And I'm still seeing this confluence area. So maybe I can find the short that I'm looking for up here somewhere. Maybe. The other option, of course, is to get to the top of the range, then trade it short. But yeah, look, that's something that I like to trade. I do like to trade that. But because it's Monday and there's not a lot of news around, I don't think we're going to have enough to get us through there. But I'll be watching that in the morning. So if you're into the morning TTR shows, then perhaps you'll find me with something to say at that point in time, but not at the moment. In terms of what the Aussie can do, yeah, a little bit on the toss of a coin side. There's some suggestion that the coal thing that we were talking about last week, which caused this bar here on Thursday, which was, I don't know about fake news, but it was certainly misconstrued, I think, from what I've read since. They were talking about a ban on Australian coal through 8 or 9 ports in China or some such thing. And that sent the market down here, as you can see. But we've since had I think, partial denial of that from Beijing. They're saying that that is not the case at all. They've had delays in clearing from those ports for reasons X, Y, Z that won't come to my mind. And that's why you're seeing the Aussie come back to exactly where it was when that news hit, pretty much. We need to remember, if we go back before that news was announced, we were in the middle of the reaction to positive news on the Aussie dollar. Now, I think that was employment figures. Yes, it was, from memory. There was a good employment figure, and the market rallied on the back of that, and then the coal news hit and took it back down. So that's another reason why this short isn't really of particular choice. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it'll do. It's not really the way I want to go right now. I want to see this high taken out, and I think that's probably potentially going to be the case unless this coal thing comes back into picture. But if it doesn't, you've got to remember we're on a rally here, and this knocked it over. This was an emotional reaction to that coal news. So I really can see this up here, and I think that's where I'll start looking for shorts. Would I be willing to trade it long today becomes the question now that I've just delivered all of that. I'm wondering why I'm not thinking long. It's probably a combination of things. Untested daily pivot's always something I don't like to trade away from. But yeah, I can see this kind of range here. Weekly pivot, 71.65. I can see a bit of bouncing going on here. I'm just not ready to trade long. Maybe if we got down to here, I'd look at it. But at the moment, no. So there's a little bit of a story on what's going on in the Aussie, mate. It's interesting when you think about that fake news, if you like. I'll call it fake news, that drove the market down. That may well be taken out today. May well.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? It was a really interesting story, that, because it seemed to come out of nowhere and then disappear right back where it started again. So,
and interestingly, that's exactly where we are, pretty much back where we started.
Yeah.
So I'm done, mate.
So, yeah, okay, mate, no problem at all. I think I'm done too. Bit of waiting. Just want to quickly show you the FTSE 100, just so you can see what the issues are here. 5 minute chart. I mean, the hourly chart has really told us everything we need to know. This is the first hour's bar, which is a complete expression of indecision, and the 5 minute chart just started to break to the downside, maybe attempted to give us a signal to the downside, and then it's just popped right back forward again. So the only thing you can really do is probably trade the lines. Let's see. Probably was a little opportunity down there, but yeah, I've just got a bit of a lack of faith in where this is going. So not willing to put my money in the market. Certainly not at this period. Maybe the American market changes things up. We will see, but we'll be back in half an hour, right?
Yep.
27 minutes. Great stuff. All right, buddy. All right. Well, have a great rest of the day, guys, and I will speak to you very, very shortly, Jeff.
Yes,
and,
mate.
For the rest of you, speak to you tomorrow.
Happy days, guys. I think that's a free show we're going into as well, isn't it? Each Monday.
I think it is. Yes.
Yeah. So, guys, if you're looking for a way into that, joined by some very senior traders, Ash and myself, Julian and PB, if he's not caught at an airport somewhere. See you then.
Yep. See you shortly.